Well, well, well. Things just keep getting worse. Things are getting worse and worse for the Republican Party and for Donald Trump. But when you're dealing with a cult, I don't think the truth actually matters anymore. A grand jury in Georgia that's looking into Donald Trump's conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election in that state the grand jury said today, Trump was wrong. They found absolutely no evidence of voter fraud in the 2020 presidential election. Now, not a single judge or jury in nearly 50 cases have been able to uncover voter fraud in the 2020 presidential election. Doesn't matter. We're talking about a religion, the religion of Trump. So the truth doesn't matter. Dominion Voting is suing Fox News for $1.5 billion, as well as Rudy Giuliani and a couple of other charlatans. But Dominion is suing Fox News for $1.5 billion for defamation, for spreading lies about the 2020 election, for spreading lies about Dominion voting machines. I reported on this a month ago. I reported on the depositions given by Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity, who under oath all said they didn't believe a single word Donald Trump was saying about 2020. The depositions last night were made public. Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Laura Ingraham, all from Fox News, all said under oath and in texts revealed that Rudy Giuliani is a nut, that Sidney Powell, the other attorney, is a nut. They all said in their texts to each other that the Trump campaign, that Donald Trump was lying about the election results. Journalistic ethics do not apply to Fox News or the right-wing propaganda machine, because this isn't about the truth. This is a cult. The Georgia grand jury also said that several key witnesses who testified may have committed perjury. Among those who testified before the Georgia grand jury were Senator Lindsey Graham and Rudy Giuliani, who were both asked under oath about the role they played in trying to convince Georgia's Secretary of State that Biden lost Georgia in 2020. Okay, it's getting worse. The evidence has been there for years. It doesn't matter to Republicans or Trump supporters. It doesn't matter to our Justice Department. Lawyers for 5 leaders of the Proud Boys who are on trial for seditious conspiracy in the role they played in the January 6th insurrection have asked the judge in their case to subpoena Donald Trump in an attempt to prove the Proud Boys were acting on orders from the White House when they stormed the nation's capital. Meanwhile, one of the lead members of the Proud Boys has already pleaded guilty to seditious conspiracy, and he is serving as a key witness for the prosecution. Seditious conspiracy. We already had Oath Keepers convicted last month and in November of seditious conspiracy. This was an insurrection. Now, as we've already talked about on this show, Enrico Tarrio, he is the leader of the Proud Boys. As we've reported on this show last year, he was already an informer for federal and local police going all the way back to 2012. We're working off a Reuters story that came out last year. Well, the Washington Post is now reporting that the head of Washington, D.C.'s police intelligence, he was the head of Washington, D.C.'s police intelligence, at least during the run-up to January 6th. He was suspended. His name is Shane Lamond. He's a 22-year-old police veteran. He has been suspended this week as the FBI investigates new evidence that he was in communication with Enrique Tarrio, the head of the Proud Boys. He was in communication with him for months leading up to the attack on the Capitol. New text messages between Enrique Tarrio, the head of the Proud Boys, and Shane Lamond, who was Washington, D.C.'s police intelligence chief. New text messages show the head of Washington, D.C. police intelligence was telling the head of the Proud Boys where and when he was likely to be arrested. He was also, according to the Washington Post, sharing the status of Washington, D.C. police investigations into the Proud Boy leader's friends. Lieutenant Lamond, the suspended intelligence chief for Washington, D.C. police, Lamond insists that's how D.C. intelligence handles an informer. Perhaps, but the FBI is looking into this. Lawyers for Enrique Tarrio, the head of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, they want to call Lamond, the suspended Washington, D.C. intelligence chief, they want him to testify in order to prove the Proud Boys did not conspire to bring about the events of January 6. They want to prove that the Proud Boys were in constant communication with D.C. police in the lead up to the January 6 insurrection. Now, we've reported, based on the work of Reuters, that Enrique Tarrio, the head of the Proud Boys, was an FBI informer and as well as an informer to the Washington, D.C. police. So it is conceivable he was being handled by Washington, D.C. police intelligence chief and being given information to get information. I understand that, okay? I understand that. But we are watching a Justice Department convict Oath Keepers of seditious conspiracy, right? They got 2 convictions in 2 separate trials. We know Enrique Tarrio, head of the Proud Boys, was meeting with Stewart Rhodes, who was the head of the Oath Keepers, in a garage the night before January 6. Stewart Rhodes, the Yale-educated founder of the Oath Keepers, was convicted last November of seditious conspiracy in the role he played in January 6. He testified under oath, Stewart Rhodes, that he was waiting to be called by Donald Trump to take action. He was expecting Donald Trump to issue some kind of mandate, some kind of insurrection act, and deputize the Oath Keepers. So what did the Trump Justice Department know in the lead up to January 6? What did Washington, D.C. police know in the lead up to January 6? What did the Secret Service know in the lead up to January 6? Could they have stopped it? Did they want it to happen? Well, things don't look good for Donald Trump. I don't know if that matters. If this were another country, it would look bad for Trump. In this country, things may be looking up for him. It's gotten so bad. But things seem to be perhaps looking bad for Trump. And so other Republicans are thinking of running. This week, Nikki Haley said she is no longer thinking about it because she doesn't think about anything. That's why she declared her candidacy for president of the United States. Nikki Haley made the announcement before a rally of low-information voters in her home state of South Carolina. And before the big declaration, she said what she, as governor, ordered all state employees to say when they answered the phone.
It's a great day in South Carolina.
And right before making the big announcement, she thanked all the people who warmed the crowd up for her, including a Pastor Hagee.
You know, I have to say before I start, I've got to give a shout out to the people who took the podium before me. To Pastor Hagee, I still say I want to be you when I grow up. Thank you.
Pastor Hagee, Pastor Hagee, Pastor Hagee.
I still say I want to be you when I grow up. Thank you.
That's sweet. She wants to be just like Pastor Hagee when she grows up. And I was trying to remember Pastor Hagee. Why does that name sound so familiar? And then I remembered that Pastor Hagee hates Jews, Catholics, Muslims, and homosexuals. Pastor Hagee is a bigot, and he's a Christian minister. Of all the religious leaders to christen her voyage, Nikki Haley picked Satan. He is Satan. In 1968, John Hagee endorsed the third-party bid of segregationist George Wallace for president. Now, back in 2008, he is an opportunistic infection. When it became apparent that John McCain was going to get the Republican nomination, Pastor Hagee endorsed him. McCain accepted the endorsement, but then rejected it. This is from the 2008 Washington Post. Senator John McCain on Thursday repudiated the presidential endorsement of the Reverend John Hagee after learning about a sermon in which the mega church pastor from San Antonio declared that God allowed the rise of Adolf Hitler because it resulted in returning Israel to the Jewish people. But it gets a lot worse. It gets a lot worse than that. Sermons of Pastor Hagee had materialized in 2008, in which he went on about the Holocaust, saying it was God's will. And then Max Blumenthal, the great reporter, reviewed all his sermons back in 2008 and reported that Hagee told his congregants the Antichrist was a Jewish homosexual, which makes no sense, but it does explain the Andy Cohen phenomenon on Bravo. Nikki, any comments about Pastor Hagee, your opener?
I still say I want to be you when I grow up. Thank you.
You still say that. You want to be like Pastor Hagee when you grow up, even though Pastor Hagee said after Hurricane Katrina in 2005 that it was the fault of a planned gay pride parade. Thousands of people lost their lives in 2005 after Hurricane Katrina, and Pastor Hagee says it was all caused by a gay pride parade that New Orleans was planning for that week. Nikki Haley, what are your thoughts about the pastor you picked to open up your run for president?
I still say I want to be you when I grow up. Thank you.
Kind of like Ronald Reagan declaring his candidacy in Philadelphia, Mississippi, the site of the slaughter of all those civil rights workers. You're just sending a message, aren't you, Nikki Haley? You're sending a message by asking John Hagee, Pastor John Hagee, Satan, asking him to be the religious leader you turn to christen your campaign. You're sending a signal, the same signal Ronald Reagan sent in 1980 in Philadelphia, Mississippi, that you have no problem with xenophobic bigots. You are running, Nikki Haley, in a party that hates you. They hate you because you're a woman. They hate you because you're not white. They hate you because at one time in your life you were a Sikh. It's pronounced Sikh among the Punjabis. So but we'll call you Sikh for the American audience, that you were born a Sikh and you converted to Christianity, but the people whose votes you're asking for, they're not going to give it to you because they still see you as a Sikh. They still see you as a woman and a person of color. Now, some Republicans, Nikki, they'll pretend to support you. But then there are the more responsible Republicans, the ones who speak the truth, like Ann Coulter, who went on local radio in New York on Thursday to tell Nikki Haley she should go back to India, which is strange because Nikki was born in South Carolina, but with this Republican Party, the truth doesn't matter. Ann Coulter then said, quote, "This is my country, lady," insisting Nikki Haley, who Ann Coulter referred to as baby cakes, insisting she was from India. Coulter said, quote, What's with the worshiping of cows? They're all starving there and they're worshiping cows?" This is Ann Coulter, considered the Bill Buckley of paleo-conservatives in the Republican Party. What's with the worshiping of cows? They're all starving there and they're worshiping cows? So Ann Coulter, let me explain this, you racist moron. See, cows are sacred in India partly because they are starving. Cows produce milk, which means they produce cheese, which means if you keep the cow alive and don't eat it for the meat, the cow can feed a village. But if you kill the cow for the meat, you end up starving the village. But why would someone like you who denies climate change, Ann Coulter, think one extra step into the future and plan what's best for the community? Nikki Haley is trying to get the votes from people who are racist, misogynistic, they're bigoted, they're fueled by hate. But most importantly, this entire Republican Party is the party of stupid. Ann Coulter will eventually claim she didn't mean it. She was just making a joke. But the truth is, there was a time, even in the Republican Party, when yesterday's comments by Ann Coulter would destroy her career. Now, it only enhances it, at least in right-wing media, which celebrates ignorance. These new Fox text messages between Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and Tucker Carlson. It doesn't matter what the truth is as long as it's bigoted and hateful. Now, we know Republicans are stupid. The people who vote Republican are stupid. And they are easily talked into voting against their own interests. But Nikki Haley, she is that rare politician who is running against her own interests. The height of stupidity. To get a single Republican vote, Nikki Haley must stake out positions that injure her gender, skin color, her parents' religion, her body. This is unadulterated ambition, pure, unadulterated ambition that you see in Nikki Haley. And she's not too smart. Nikki Haley was Donald Trump's ambassador to the United Nations. Before that, she was the Republican governor of South Carolina. And on Wednesday, after first seeking permission from Mr. Trump to run, Nikki announced she was running for president. And she is, to put it gently, a portrait in contradiction. Although she is running as a person of color, she supports strict voter ID laws that make it difficult, if not impossible, for other people of color to cast their ballots. Although Nikki Haley is a woman, She opposes a woman's right to choose when it comes to her own reproductive rights. Well, how did Nikki Haley do as governor? She's going to run on her record. She left office in 2017 to become Donald Trump's UN ambassador. Here's her record. South Carolina is among the 10 poorest states in America. That is former governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley's record.
It's a great day in South Carolina.
It's a great day in South Carolina if you're at Charleston International Airport leaving it. Because of rampant poverty that Nikki Haley did nothing to alleviate, South Carolina is among the top 10 hungriest states in America.
It's a great day in South Carolina.
Basically, when Nikki Haley keeps saying it's a great day in South Carolina, and that's what all government employees were ordered to say when they answered the phone, it's a great day in South Carolina, you're basically bragging about the weather. You can't be bragging about anything else about South Carolina other than its weather, which, if you haven't noticed, is getting a lot worse thanks to Nikki Haley's climate change denial as UN ambassador under Trump. It's no longer a great day in South Carolina. It's hotter, more humid because of climate change. There's more flooding, more hurricanes, and a new breed of even nastier mosquitoes, one of whom is running for president. And that mosquito's name is Nikki Haley, who, as governor of South Carolina, made sure that South Carolina refused to accept Medicaid expansion under Obamacare. As a result, South Carolina's life expectancy is among the lowest in America. Among the lowest in America. Now, I know Republicans play golf, Nikki, but the idea with life expectancy, unlike your golf score, life expectancy is supposed to be high. See, when it comes to life expectancy, South Carolina is shooting a 74, which is way below par, and that's not good to shoot below this kind of par. You have no record to run on other than the very thing you oppose, identity politics. But it's not what she does for the voters. It's what Nikki does for her corporate backers. She doesn't believe in Medicaid expansion, but she supports privatizing Medicare and turning it over to health insurance companies. Because what's good for corporate America is good for Nikki Haley. South Carolina is among the bottom 7 when it comes to states with the highest death rates from car accidents. But Nikki Haley doesn't care because it's all about freedom, the freedom to go barreling through your windshield. Here she is, back in 2010, when she was running for governor, being interviewed by the fine fellas from the Sons of Confederate Veterans. The Sons of Confederate Veterans. Here she is, trying to get them to vote for her. She is telling the Sons of Confederate Veterans that she's against seatbelt mandates and motorcycle helmet mandates, which means that when she becomes governor, her police won't ticket you for not buckling up. You won't get ticketed if you're a motorcyclist and you're not wearing a helmet, even though brain injuries are perhaps the single most expensive medical expense for state-funded health care. Then again, brain injuries are also the Republican Party's single most effective recruitment program. Nikki Haley, let's listen to Nikki Haley telling the Sons of Confederate Veterans back in 2010 that she is opposed to seatbelt mandates.
And anybody in the House or Senate can tell you I do not support mandates. You know, whether it's seatbelt, whether it's helmet, whether it's anything, I've never voted for it. I've actually fought against it.
Well, here she is proving that she's also a constitutional scholar. Again, back in 2010, when the Sons of the Confederacy, what are they? The Sons of Confederate Veterans, she was seeking the votes of the Sons of the Confederate Veterans, they asked if South Carolina, get ready for this, and trust me, it gets worse. They asked if South Carolina had the right to secede from the Union.
Do you believe that the states of the United States have the right to secede from the Union?
I think that they do. I mean, the Constitution says that.
If it became an issue where the state of South Carolina needed to secede from the Union, would you support it?
You know, I'm one of those people that doesn't think it's going to get to that point. And let me tell you why.
I don't think we need to know why. She says the Constitution says that South Carolina has the right to secede from the Union. Whose Constitution are you talking about? The Confederacy's Constitution or the American Constitution? Because if you ever read the U.S. Constitution, you would know that no state is allowed to secede. The Confederate flag. This is a picture of one of the insurrectionists walking through the Capitol on January 6th, and he's carrying a Confederate flag. The flag is a symbol of insurrection, of anti-American racist hate. It is the Nazi flag. The Confederate flag is the Nazi flag. But it took a white supremacist by the name of Dylann Roof to shoot to death 9 black people, including a state senator, in 2015 in South Carolina. It took this tragedy for Nikki Haley as governor to consider removing the Confederate flag from flying over her state house. Now, after the shooting, all the other flags above her state house were flown at half-staff, except the Confederate flag. It continued to wave. Haley was too chicken shit to order the Confederate flag down or even fly at half-staff, even though Dylann Roof, the mass murderer, was covered in Confederate flags. This is Nikki Haley running for office back in 2010, telling the Sons of the Confederacy her thoughts on the Confederate flag.
We'd like to know what your position is on the Confederate flag.
You know, I feel like it's been resolved to the best of its ability. You know, for those groups that come in and say they have issues with the Confederate flag, I will work to talk to them about it. I will work and talk to them about the heritage and how this is not something that is racist. This is something that is a tradition that people feel proud of.
It's not racist. It's a tradition that people feel proud of. Slavery is not racist. It's a tradition. And I guess in certain parts of South Carolina, racism is a tradition and part of their heritage. Then Nikki Haley, back in 2010, was asked by the Sons of the Confederate Veterans if she would support Confederate History Month. Would you support Confederate History Month, Nikki Haley?
Would you support a Confederate History Month in this state?
I mean, yes, it's part of a traditional, it's part of tradition. And so when you look at that, if you have the same as you have Black History Month and you have Confederate History Month and all of those, as long as it's done where it is in a positive way and not in a negative way, and it doesn't go to harm anyone, and it goes back to where it focuses on the traditions of the people that are wanting to celebrate it, then I think it's fine.
I think it's fine as long as it doesn't harm anybody, because, you know, it was just a tradition. The Confederate soldiers didn't harm anybody, right? They weren't trying to keep slavery. She equates Confederate history with Black history. This is how an eighth grader thinks if that eighth grader hasn't been exposed to critical race theory. What was the Civil War about? It was about the whips, the raping, the separation of mothers from children, men and women separated, families sold off. We're talking about a Holocaust. This is not a tradition. This is not a heritage. This was a travesty. It is America's original sin. And you think it's harmless to celebrate Confederate history and paper over the history as though it was about tradition? This was about the mass slaughter of Africans. A tradition, a heritage. And yet, it gets worse. It gets worse. Nikki Haley is stupid. Nikki Haley is stupid. Watch how she gets tricked into a loaded question. This is a when did you stop beating your wife question. It's incredible. This woman wants to be president. Watch her get tricked by sons of Confederate veterans. She's too stupid not to be tricked by the sons of Confederate veterans. This is a perfect example of a when did you stop beating your wife question. Here we go. Enjoy this.
What's your belief about the reason the Civil War was fought?
Let me just make sure you heard that properly. What is your belief as to why the Civil War was wrong? Okay, let's just watch that again. This is when did you stop beating your wife?
Would you support a Confederate history month?
Oh, here we go. Hang on. Here we go. She's being asked, what's your support? What's your view on why the Civil War was wrong?
What's your belief about the reason the Civil War was fought?
Yeah, give me the reason the Civil War was wrong. Like, we all know the Civil War was wrong, but what's your reason that the Civil War was wrong? This is the party that calls my father Antifa. My father was Antifa. He served in World War II, defeated Hitler, Mussolini. They're the bad guys in the Republican Party. Anybody who's against fascism is a terrorist, according to the Republican Party. And here is Nikki Haley answering a question, the reason the Civil War was wrong. And here is her answer. It gets worse.
I mean, again, I think that as we look in government, as we watch government, you have different sides. And I think that you see passions on different sides. And I don't think anyone does anything out of hate. I think what they do is they do things out of tradition and out of beliefs of what they believe is right. I think you had one side of the Civil War that was fighting for tradition, and I think you had another side of the Civil War that was fighting for change. You know, at the end of the day, what I think we need to remember is that, you know, everyone is supposed to have their rights. Everyone's supposed to be free. Everyone's supposed to have the same freedoms as anyone else. So, you know, I think it was tradition versus change is the way I see it.
Tradition versus change on what?
On individual rights and liberty of people.
So the Civil War was just tradition versus change. That's how she saw the Civil War. It's just a difference of opinion. It wasn't about hatred. It was the South wanted to maintain their tradition, and the North wanted to change. And this is an age-old dialectic that's been going on for centuries. Tradition versus change. What is your belief on why the Civil War was wrong? Now, that answer, I feel like playing it again, doesn't just disqualify her from running for office ever again. It disqualifies her from the human race. She's a Neanderthal, and that's cruel to Neanderthals because they had a sense of community. This is just craven ambition. It is the reason we need to teach critical race theory. The fact that somebody as recently as 2010 would run for governor of South Carolina and say that the Civil War was wrong. She doesn't correct the Sons of the Confederacy. She doesn't say it was wrong for South Carolina to secede. She doesn't say that. What's your belief on why Lincoln, this was the question that she answered. What's your belief on why Lincoln was wrong for fighting to make South Carolina stay in the Union? Right? The party of Lincoln. She's running to be president in the party of Lincoln, and she's saying the Civil War was wrong. She is rendered stupid by her craven ambition. She is tricked into openly admitting that the Civil War was wrong. One side was fighting for tradition, one side was fighting for change. Well, the North, which was right, and the South, which was wrong, the South lost. You craven moron. The tradition was this. His name was Gordon. He was a slave in Louisiana. This is a picture. I gotta warn you. This is a picture taken of his back in 1863. It was distributed by abolitionists who wanted to change the tradition that Nikki Haley seems to be so understanding of. You see why it is absolutely necessary to teach critical race theory to ignoramuses like Nikki Haley? It gets worse and worse. Like I said, this doesn't disqualify her from becoming president. It disqualifies her from the human race. She is not a human being. South Carolina. Now, about 26.5% of South Carolina is African American. And I can assure you they're not voting for Nikki Haley. But they do vote. The African Americans in South Carolina do vote, which is why Joe Biden and the Democrats have made the South Carolina primary first in the nation. It's official. They voted, and it's been passed, and South Carolina will replace Iowa and New Hampshire. New Hampshire is going to put up a fight, but as of 2024, South Carolina will create the Democratic frontrunner from now on. Biden says it's in order to give African Americans more of a say in choosing the nominee. And I like the idea of African Americans picking our candidates. I'm just not too keen on anyone else in South Carolina vetting the Democratic Party's frontrunner. I'm not sure this was a great idea. Again, I like the idea of African Americans vetting our Democratic Party's nominees. There aren't enough in Iowa. There aren't enough in New Hampshire. I'm just not keen on anyone else in South Carolina vetting the Democratic nominee. If you remember, back in 2020, South Carolina served as the firewall to stop Bernie Sanders from getting the nomination. South Carolina picked Biden over Sanders. Even Warren, they picked Biden over Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. I agree. Iowa and New Hampshire don't have enough people of color, but they do a pretty good job traditionally of giving left of center activists a shot. Not sure South Carolina, given who it has sent to Washington, that given who South Carolina sends to Washington as Democrats, Biden and Clyburn, not sure South Carolina has earned the right to be first in the nation, picking the front runner for the Democratic Party. Nikki Haley, going back to Nikki Haley, she opposes an assault weapons ban. And as governor, she made it easier to get a gun, which is why South Carolina is in the top 10 when it comes to gun deaths in America. Thanks to Nikki Haley. Top 10. This is a record you can run on. Top 10 in gun deaths in America. Only Missouri, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas have more gun deaths than Nikki Haley's South Carolina. Now, I don't want to relitigate the Civil War. Apparently, people in South Carolina do. You lost. And when I see that the bottom rung of gun deaths belong to Missouri, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas. I'm not sure about Missouri and Arkansas. I don't know if they were in the Confederacy. I'm not quite sure. But I do know they're red states, and their leaders, I know Arkansas's Tom Cotton identifies with the Confederacy, and Josh Hawley in Missouri, pretty sure he identifies with the Confederacy and gun rights. I don't think we should be listening to these people when it comes to the assault weapons ban, when you factor in that most of the gun deaths are in the states that have the most lax gun laws in America.
It's a great day in South Carolina.
If it's such a great day in South Carolina, Nikki Haley, then I have an idea. Why don't you stay there? If it's such a great day in South Carolina, don't run for office. Stay in your beautiful South Carolina and don't bother us. Don't bother us. Yeah. Let me, I'm having a little bit of a technical problem. There we go. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. We do this show live, and it's amazing that I just don't break everything. I may. Let's just see if I can do this. No. Damn it. Okay. Hang on. Okay. You're frozen on me. While I'm trying to fix this, please remember that office hours starts at 6 p.m. on Friday. And all you need to do is go to my website, and hopefully my website is working. This is just, come on. Man. Are you, I'm not going to curse, you bastard. What do you think about my computer software? If you agree with me, please join the conversation in the chat room. You bastard. I hate everybody. I really do. I can't believe this. Oh, you mother. Want to watch a boomer lose it? I am told that there is a market on these video sites to watch an aging baby boomer have technical problems. Well, okay. That's it. My notes, I can't see my notes. So I was going to talk about East Palestine and other things, but I can't find anything. Okay. Damn it. Please share this video. Not this part. How long have we been doing this? Okay, the first half hour was pretty good. And quite frankly, if I were watching a baby boomer falling apart, I would find this to be the most enjoyable part of his crappy little podcast. Watching him being reminded of what a loser he is. This is gold. This is the highlight of the week. This is what people want to see. I should just start breaking everything. The rage that I feel right now is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay. Nikki Haley converted to Christianity. She was born a Sikh if you're Punjabi. This is what, and let's hope this works. Let's hope this works. This is from The Guardian, 2018, okay? This is from The Guardian. I'm going to go full screen here. Does it work? I don't even know if you can hear me, but this is from The Guardian. The violence is always there. Life as a Sikh in Trump's America. Many Sikh civil rights groups believe that the Trump presidency is to blame for a 17% spike in anti-Sikh violence since the 2016 election. And yes, I'm trying to fix my software. Hang on. Hey, you know what? There we go. Hang on. I fixed it. Did I fix it? Okay. Let's pretend, hang on, let's just do a clean, let's pretend none of that happened, okay? And you'll notice that this is live. Did I break anything? Did I curse? Did I curse? You have no idea what I wanted to say, but I have restraint. I shit my pants, but nothing filthy came out of my mouth. All right. The Guardian. My notes are here. Nikki Haley asked Pastor Hagee, if you remember, to speak at her rally. Now, Pastor Hagee hates Jews, Muslims, Catholics, and homosexuals. I can assure you he also hates the Sikhs. And had Nikki Haley not converted to Christianity, if she were still a Sikh or a Sikh, he would not endorse you, Nikki Haley. You are not running to represent all of America. You're not even running to represent women or Christians, which you purport to be. You're running to represent yourself and yourself only because you are a political animal of the worst sort. You're not human. And your party is run by animals just like you. Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan. It's all about you. You are all subhuman. And I'm tired of anthropomorphizing the people who run the Republican Party. I'm going to say anthropomorphizing again because I mispronounced it. I am tired of anthropomorphizing. That's what I get for using a $5 word. If you're going to use a $5 word, a-hole, learn how to pronounce it. I am tired of giving human characteristics to animals like Donald Trump, Jim Jordan, Ron DeSantis, Kevin McCarthy, Nikki Haley. And I'm tired of being told that you're humans. You're not. You're not. You're vicious and you're craven. Nikki Haley's parents, I believe, are still Sikhs. This is from The Guardian. Okay? 2018, the violence is always there. Life is a Sikh in Trump's America. Many Sikh civil rights groups believe that the Trump presidency is to blame for a 17% spike in anti-Sikh violence since the 2016 election, as well as a deluge of other discriminatory incidents in the workplace, in housing, in schools, at airport security checkpoints. The president's inflammatory language about immigrants and foreigners, they say, has made official profiling more prevalent and emboldened racists to speak and act more openly. I have a friend who's Sikh and was thrown out of a Trump rally for wearing a turban, because in Trump's world, in the Republican Party, there's no difference between a Sikh and a Muslim, because this entire party is run by vicious, craven, ignorant Neanderthals. And they're already extinct. They're going away. But they won't be satisfied until they take us with them. That's their goal. These Neanderthals know they're extinct, but they won't be happy until we go extinct without them. And my apologies to Neanderthals. The more we've learned about Neanderthals, the more we've learned that they had a sense of community, which these Republicans do not have. Well, we did it. We got through another episode. If you enjoyed this, and I don't know why you would, although I think it really kicked in at the end where I just fell apart. I thought that was my sense of showmanship excelled there. Please share this. The only way people can find out about my show is if you, the listeners, share it. I have no corporate funding. I'm not part of any podcasting network who would have me. I'm not part of any charity, no corporate underwriting. Anybody who hears this show or watches this show, they only found out about it through their friends. So please copy and paste the link to this podcast, share it through social media or on email. If you would like to sign up for my newsletter, please do so by going to my website. My newsletter comes out an hour before office hours starts every Friday night at 6 p.m. It also contains the link for office hours. I make myself available to all my listeners through office hours at 8 p.m. till about 9:30 p.m. every Friday night. All you need is Zoom, or we have a dial-in number, and I'll talk to you about whatever you want to talk about. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak.